Good day, I'm Abolawe. On today's episode, we'll be looking at revenue concepts. So, before I talk about the meaning of revenue, it is very important to understand that before a firm can realize revenue, such a firm must have incurred revenue expenditure, which are basically running costs of the business or operating costs or expenses. So the revenue of a firm alongside or together with its cost of production determines profits. And what that simply means is that for you to get a profit, you have to less your total costs from your total revenue. This is basically what we mean by that. Okay. What we mean by that is that profits equals total revenue, total revenue less total costs. So this is what we mean by the revenue of a firm alongside its cost gives profits. So when you less your total cost from your total revenue, you are going to have profits. Now, when we talk about revenue, we can talk about how a school generates its revenue. A school generates its revenue from the tuition fee that the students pay. An individual could generate revenue from rendering labor services. That the individual gets to receive wages or salary, or peradventure from being a landlord or landlady, such receives rent for the month or for the year. Yeah, also a government country could also realize revenue from taxation, from sales of natural resources, from rendering expertise services to other countries of the world, and on and on. So those are ways individuals, firms, and governments could generate revenue. So basically, when we say revenue, we mean the amount a business realizes for making sales. So let's say, for example, I merchandise a marker. I'm a marker seller. Let's say, for example, which I'm not. It's just an instance, right? So let's say I merchandise marker. If I sell this marker, the money that comes to me, let's say I sell this marker to one of you watching right now. The money you get to pay me is my revenue. And like I did say, before I can realize that money which you pay me, I must have incurred revenue expenditure, which is basically the cost of production. So the money you get to pay me for selling this market to you is my revenue. So revenue simply means the amount a firm realizes for making sales of a product at various prices, basically. So we have on the board here, revenue is the receipt a business obtains from the sale of certain quantities of a commodity at various prices. You can see here, this receipt has S. So when receipt has S, it means the amount that comes to a business for making sales or from merchandising, from buying and selling and all that. So that's basically what revenue means. So now that you've understood what revenue means, then let's talk about concepts of revenue. So when we say concept of revenue, we actually mean how the revenue of a business, of a firm, can be measured. So basically, there are three ways, or there are three concepts of revenue, or there are three ways you could measure the revenue of a firm. The first is total revenue, average revenue, and marginal revenue. So let's start off with total revenue. So when I sell quantities of this marker, let's say for example, I sell 5 units of this marker. The amount I realize from that is called total revenue. So let's say for example, I sold 5 units, 5 units of this marker at 10 naira each. So my total revenue here is going to be the units of the marker which I sold times the price of each marker. or the price per marker. So to get your total revenue is expressed as price times quantity sold or units sold. So price times quantity, that's how to get your revenue. So if we are assuming here that the unit sold is 5 units at 10 naira each, that's going to give me total revenue of 50 naira. So my total revenue is 50 naira. How did I get that? The unit sold times the price per unit. That gives me total revenue. So I hope that is understood good. Then the second concept of revenue, average revenue. So average revenue, okay, let me just try and do a brush up on this. So total revenue is the total amount a business realizes for making sales or for selling quantities of a commodity at a specific prices or at a specific price. That's basically that. So when I sell 5 units, I sell quantities. Then that gives me at a particular price. Then this times this, that gives me total revenue. So I hope that is understood. Good. Then average revenue now. So when as a seller, I sell just a unit of this marker or of any product that I merchandise, then the amount I realize from that is called average revenue. So average revenue is the amount a firm realizes for selling a unit of a commodity. So when I sell a unit of a commodity, the revenue I realize from that is called average revenue. So going by this instance that we've cited, this example that we've cited, your average revenue, don't forget, is gotten by total revenue divided by quantity or units sold. If we assume that our total revenue is 50 and we want to get our average revenue, the unit sold is 5 units. Let's use this instance or this example to get our average revenue. So average revenue is total revenue divided by quantity or units sold. And we have been told that our total revenue is 50. Our units sold is 5 units, which is the same thing as quantity. Then to get our average revenue now is always total revenue here is 50. So 50 divided by the units sold now, which is 5 units. Then that gives us, so the average revenue now for selling 1 unit of a commodity is going to give us 10 naira. That's what we have. So in every selling environment that a business operates, the average revenue of every firm is always equal to the price of the commodity, or the price of the commodity is always equal to the average revenue. Let me prove that in a second or two. Look at this. Your average revenue, to get it, that's total revenue divided by quantity. So here we have average revenue equals total revenue divided by quantity. That's the formula to get your average revenue. And we have been told here that total revenue is price times quantity. So here now we have price times quantity for our total revenue. Then divided by this quantity you have here. So this is quantity. Then Q cancel out Q. Then you have your average revenue, which you have here, equals price. So this is the proving that average revenue is always equal to the price in any selling environment or market situation that a firm finds itself. So that's with respect to that. So average revenue is always the same thing as price. That's basically that. So when you sell a unit of a commodity, the amount, the revenue you realize as a business is called average revenue. Then the last but not least, which is marginal revenue. Marginal means additional, and marginal revenue means the additional revenue to total revenue when there is a small increase in the quantity sold, or marginal revenue, in other words, is the additional revenue or extra revenue a business realizes for selling one more unit or additional units of a commodity. So when you sell one more unit of a commodity, the revenue you realize as a firm is called marginal revenue. So I already sold 5 units of a marker per unit, which is 10 naira per unit. If I sell one more unit, that means automatically I'm going to realize 10 naira as my marginal revenue because per unit, price per unit is 10 naira. But regarding that, because some of you might want to be like, oh, that is not always the case in every market situation. Absolutely, it's not always the case because there is a distinguishing difference between average revenue and marginal revenue, which you are going to be looking into now regarding the differences in different market situations that we may have. So there is a correlation, there is a relationship between average revenue and marginal revenue because most times these two are always the same and most times they are not always the same. So this average revenue and marginal revenue will always be the same in a selling environment called perfect market or pure competition. But in an imperfect market, they are not always the same. Average revenue always lies above the marginal revenue, or the marginal revenue always lies below the average revenue. But let's look at that thoroughly now. That's the relationship between average revenue and marginal revenue. So that is going to be looked at under two selling environment. That's perfect markets and imperfect markets. So let's start off with our perfect markets. That's with respect to the relationship between average and marginal revenue. So when we say perfect market, we actually mean a market situation where there are large number of firms selling homogeneous products at the same ruling market price. So the products sold in this perfect market are homogeneous. They are identical. In fact, they are perfect substitutes. No difference whatsoever between or among the goods that is sold in a perfect market. So there is no packaging, there is no labeling of goods in perfect markets as it is concerned. So in this perfect market, the basis of determining the prices of goods and services, it is the forces of demand and supply. And this is the industry. This is the industry. And this is for a single firm that operates in a perfect market, or most times they call it pure competition. So this basis of determining this price is the demand and supply. Demand, supply. At a point they intersect. So this point where they intersect brought up this price called the equilibrium price. And this price was set by the industry, was dictated by the industry for all the firms that operate in this perfect market to sell their products. So no single firm will sell above this price which has been set by the industry, because although ordinarily every firm can have fixed price to its product at which the firm will sell it, but not in a perfect market, because each firm in a perfect market is considered a price taker. Price taker means they have no choice than to sell their products at which or at the price the industry dictates, which is 10 naira here. So the price you have here, which is for each firm to sell, emanates from the price which is or which was dictated by the industry. So if, like I said, each firm is a price taker. So if this firm tries to have fixed price to its products above this price, let's say it's trying to sell at 11 naira, then what that means is that the firm will sell nothing. The demand for its products, the demand for the firm's products will reduce to nothing. And that means the firm will have to leave the industry. Because if as a seller you operate in a perfect market, let's say the industry, the price that was set by the industry is $10 or 10 naira, and you try to sell at 11 naira, what that means is that as a buyer, I can quickly take a step forward and buy the same product which you are trying to sell for me at 11 naira at 10 naira. So by that, as a firm, you are not going to sell Nothing. If you try to have fixed price to your product for your own advantage, that means above the price that is dictated by the industry. So what that simply means is that the price of the product in a perfect market is the same as the average revenue. The average revenue, this is the average revenue curve. It is horizontal, and it is horizontal straight line basically, and it is parallel to the x-axis or the output axis. And the MR, that's the marginal revenue, coincides with the average revenue. And the demand curve for a firm in a perfect market is horizontal straight line, and it is also parallel to the x-axis. So in a perfect market, the price is the same thing as average revenue. That's common in all market. It's the same. Price and average revenue, they're always the same. So average revenue coincides with the marginal revenue. They are the same. And the demand curve for each firm in a perfect market is also horizontal. So all these are always the same in a perfect market. That's basically that. Because if you try to sell one more unit, like we've emphasized here, the price per unit is 10 naira, which is the average revenue. If you sell one more unit, you are going to realize 10 naira. And that simply means when you sell one more unit, that's marginal revenue. So marginal revenue is the same thing as the average revenue, and average revenue is the same thing as the price. So that's basically with respect to perfect markets. So in perfect market, there are lots of assumptions, which I might just cite one or two of them. There is principle of free entry and exit. Free entry in the sense that when there is positive economic profits, that will command resources from all other industry into that market where there exists high positive economic profit. And as a result of the influx of many firms, many businesses into that particular business where there is high positive economic profit, there will be large number of buyers and sellers, and in the long run, zero profits. All firms in that market will be breaking even. That means no profits, no loss. Then in the long run, since there is no profits, no loss, what that means is that almost all the firms will exit the industry. That means they will leave the industry for all other industry that prices peradventure are high there, or there is high economic profits. So there is no advertisements, there is no cost of transportation, and like I did say, the demand curve facing each firm in a perfect market is horizontal straight line, and that's the average revenue curve and the marginal revenue as well as the demand curve for each firm in a perfectly competitive market. We're going to be backing up this with a revenue schedule after we've explained all this. So I hope that is understood. So that's that. So I hope that is very clear. Then remember, I did say here that the basic difference, or let me say the fundamental difference between average revenue and marginal revenue in this two market situation is that in a perfect market, average revenue and marginal revenue are the same. But in an imperfect market, which could be a monopolist, oligopoly, or monopolistic competition, here, they are not the same. Average revenue lies above the marginal revenue, or the marginal revenue lies below the average revenue. And the reason being that any firm, like you all know, monopoly is a market situation where there is a single seller having many buyers without a close substitute. Monopolistic competition is a market situation of large firms selling differentiated products at different market price, while oligopoly is a market situation of few sellers having many buyers. So all those firms we have talked about just now, they have what is called monopoly power because they are considered a mini monopoly, monopolist, let's call them. And each firm that is regarded as a monopolist has monopoly power or market power. And market power simply means the ability of each firm to set price, to have fixed price to its products, rather than being a price taker. So all the firms in an imperfect market, they are price maker rather than being a price taker. So what that means is that the demand curve for the industry in an imperfect market is downward sloping. And most times there is usually price war. Most times when a firm here wants to increase its sales, such a firm is advised to move down the demand curve. And moving down the demand curve, like I did say, the demand curve that is faced by the industry in an imperfect market is a downward sloping demand curve. All firms, except those that operate in a perfect market, are faced with a downward sloping demand curve. And what that simply means is that if as a firm you are faced with a downward sloping demand curve, look at this. Let's say the price here is 5 and your firm sells, let's say, 20 units. If you want to sell more as a firm that operates in an imperfect market, you can always move downward or down the demand curve by reducing your price to 4. Then your quantity sold, that means demanded for your product to be 40. So that means your sales will increase, your total revenue will increase as a result of moving down or downward the demand down the demand curve. Then what that means is that your marginal revenue will fall as a result of your total revenue rising. But the effect of increase in your total revenue is that your marginal revenue will fall faster than your average revenue, and that's why we have it here. Your marginal revenue lies below the average revenue. So for a firm to increase its total revenue in an imperfect market, since each firm is considered a price taker, there is nothing you can do to the price rather than just increase the level of your productivity and sell more. That's how you can increase your total revenue with respect to a firm that operates in a perfect market. But a firm that operates in an imperfect market, such a firm should move down the demand curve, reduce its average revenue a little bit so that sales can increase. But when sales increases, total revenue increases. And when total revenue increases, the opportunity cost of that is that marginal revenue will fall. But not just fall, it will fall faster than the average revenue. So I hope that is understood now. So in an imperfect market, marginal revenue lies below the average revenue. So while output is increasing, total revenue will be average revenue will be reducing, total revenue will be increasing, but marginal revenue will be reducing, but it will reduce or it will fall faster than the average revenue. So this is what we are going to be doing now. We're going to back back up this explanation as well as these curves with a revenue schedule so that your understanding can be facilitated with that revenue schedule that we're going to be drawing in a second or two. So let's try do that together. I hope that is understood. So in short, the average revenue and marginal revenue are the same in a perfect market because the firm is considered a price taker. You can't do anything with the price. But to increase your sales, uh, increase your productivity and sell more. That's that. But here, they are not the same. Average revenue is not the same with marginal revenue. So if you want to increase your sales, your total revenue, reduce your price, move downward the demand curve. Then when your price reduces, your average revenue reduces, your total sales will increase. But the opportunity cost of the total sales or total revenue increasing is that marginal revenue will fall. But it's not just fall, it will fall faster than the average revenue. So that's basically that. So let's do the schedule together now. So that's we enhance and reinforce your understanding of the graph we have for the two market situation we have over there. So let's start off with the perfect market. Excuse me. Let's start with the perfect market. So perfect markets now. Perfect markets. So let's say here we have quantity. Then we have average revenue, which is always the same thing as price. Then we have total revenue, and we have marginal revenue. So the firm the firm is considered a price taker. So irrespective of the unit you want to sell, you are going to sell it at the price dictated by the industry. So a good example of industry you could find this perfect market is uh, gasoline filling station, or let's say agricultural sector. In the case of, let's say, production of wheat, filling station, if the price of a particular filling station is very high, the filling station, the buyer will look for another filling station nearby whose price is below its competitor and buy from there. And by that, the other filling station whose prices are very high will sell nothing. And before you know, the gas filling station will, the firm will have to leave the industry basically by as a result of not selling anything. So here, let's say we have one, two, three, four, and five. So if you want to sell one unit, the price here, let's say is 10 naira, 10 naira. Then the price is constant. The average revenue is the same. You can't do anything to the price, to the average revenue. So if you want to increase your total revenue, you have to increase your level of productivity and sell more. So here now, our total revenue is 10. So 10 times 2. 10 times 2, that's 20. 10 times 3, that's 30. 10 times 4, that's 40. 10 times 5, that's 50. So the more you produce, the more your total revenue will also increase. So as output is increasing, your total revenue will increase. So even though you want to sell 1 million units, you have to sell it at the price that is dictated by the industry. So no discounts whatsoever in a perfect market. So your marginal revenue, like I said, is always the same with the average revenue and the demand curve for the for each firm in a perfect market. So your marginal revenue is going to be 10 because your total revenue is 10 here. So 20 minus 10 divided by 2 minus 1, because the marginal revenue is change in total revenue divided by change in quantity. So 20 minus 10 divided by 2 minus 1, that gives us 10. 30 minus 20 divided by 3 minus 2, that gives us 10. So 10, 40 minus this divided by this, and 10. So this is basically what you have. So drawing this now, you have something of this nature. So you have this. So this is our units. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this is what we have. Then let's say this is our revenue region. That's the vertical axis. Then the horizontal is the units. So the units we have, that's 5. Then the revenue, that's average revenue. Let's draw it now. So when one unit is produced, it's 10. Then when 2 units, it's 10. 3 units, that's 10. 4 units, that's 10. 5 units, that's 10. So this is what we have. We have average revenue is equal to marginal revenue and is equal to. So this is a demand curve facing a firm in a perfect market. And the same curve is for the average revenue, and it is the same for marginal revenue because marginal revenue coincides with the average revenue. So the demand curve, the average revenue, and the marginal revenue, because they are the same. Look at this. They're the same. So this is basically what you have for a firm in a perfect market, and exactly what we have there. That's what we have. So it's the same. That's what we have there. So I hope this is understood with respect to perfect market. Then let's talk about for the imperfect markets now. So imperfect markets. So we have output, and we have average revenue is always the same thing as price in every market situation. Then you have total revenue and you have your marginal revenue. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say the price is 10, which is the same thing as average revenue, 10. So You sell one unit for 10 naira. That's our total revenue is going to be 10. That's 10 times 1, that's 10. Our marginal revenue is going to be, since total revenue is 10, you are going to have 10. So since total revenue is 10, marginal revenue is going to be 10 as well. Now, for you to sell 2 units as a firm in an imperfect market, what that means is that you have to move down the demand curve, reduce your price a little bit in order to have increase in sales, and as a result, increase in total revenue. But while your total revenue is increasing, your marginal revenue will be decreasing faster than the average revenue. That's basically that. So since each firm is considered a price maker, because in an imperfect market, each firm tries to avoid commoditization, sameness of products by differentiating their product from their competitors. So as a result, they will have control over the price of their product, because every firm in an imperfect market, they either have control over the price or the output, not both. They can't have control over the both. So most firms prefer to have control over the price than output. So we are assuming they have control over the price now. So they can move down the demand curve, reduce their price a little bit in order for them to be able to beat their competitor who sells similar, not the same, differentiated products. Yeah, from as regards what they sell also, basically. So for you to sell 2 units, you reduce your price to 9 naira. So total revenue has increased. Now, how did we get that? 9 times 2, that's what? 18. Then, in order to sell 3 units, the firm reduces its price to 8 naira. So, to get your marginal revenue here, that's 18 minus 10 divided by 2 minus 1. That gives us 8. Then, in order to sell 3 units, the firm reduces its price from, it moves down the demand curve again from 5 to 4, from 4 to 3. So the more the firm moves down the demand curve, the more its total revenue will increase. But marginal revenue will fall faster than the average revenue. So 3 times 4 and 3 times 8, that's 24, or 8 times 3, that's 24. So 24 minus 18, that gives us 6. In order to sell 4 units, the firm moves down the demand curve again. So here you have 7. 7 times 4, that's 28. Then 28 minus 24, that gives you 4. Then in order to sell more, that's to increase sales and as a result, increase in total revenue, the firm moved down the demand curve to 6. Then 6 times 5, that's 30. 30 minus 28 divided by 5 minus 4, that gives us 2. So going by this that we explained earlier, that marginal revenue lies below the average revenue. So here, average revenue falls by 1 naira. Look at this. This is price, 1 naira. This is in naira currency. So it falls by 1 naira from 10 to 9 to 8 to 7 to 6. But marginal revenue falls faster by 2, from 10 to 8, 8 to 6, 6 to 4, 4 to 2. So that's basically what we have here. So if you draw this, that's quantity together with average revenue, you are going to have this. And if you draw quantity together with marginal revenue, you are going to have this. So your marginal revenue will lie below the average revenue. That's what you are going to have. And I'm trying to say this now. Plot it on a graph as assignments, and let's have your comments in the comment section whether you're going to be having exactly what we have here or not. So let's have your comments regarding this. I've tried to plot this. So try to plot the average revenue against the quantity and the marginal revenue against the quantity. Let's see if you are going to have something of this nature. So this is basically what we have regarding revenue or concept of revenue. So I hope you all have learned a great deal regarding today's episode. So thank you all for your time. Uh, If this is the first time you are watching our videos or coming across our videos, please do like our videos, push the subscribe bell, ring the notification bell so that each time we put out a video, you will get notified right away. Don't forget also to help share our videos to friends and relatives whom this video might be of great help to them. Like I would usually say, your every iota of support that you give to us as Echo Plus Abroad is never and would never be taken for granted. So continue to support us in any way you can. And what more can I say? I will see you on my next video. Do have a good one. Bye bye.